Ready? Chair? Okay. All right, members, we are getting ready to start. So, half a day, Tiro, everyone. Thank you all for being here this morning and welcome to your house. Before we begin today's order of business, the chairman and I would like to clarify the purpose of today's public hearing. Today, the committee members from both houses will have an opportunity with DPL to inquire and address any concerns or issues they may have with regards to the proposed lease for Marana's Resort and Spa. At this time, we'd like to inform the public that this joint committee meeting is being streamed live on cable television channel 23, the legislature's Facebook page, and YouTube channel. We would also like to ask everyone at this time to please silence your electronic devices to minimize any disruptions. Again, the chairman and I would like to thank you for joining us this morning. I am Senator Karina L. Magovnya from the 3rd Senatorial District, chairwoman of the Senate Standing Committee on Resources, Economic Development, and Workforce. And our House Representative Angelo Camacho from Precinct 5 is our chairman for the House Standing Committee on Natural Resources. I now call this meeting to order. Today is April 8, 2025, Tuesday. It is approximately 10:18 a.m. here in the house of the Honorable Jesus B. Mofnas Memorial Building, Capitol Hill, Saipan. At this time, I would like to recognize the Senate committee members who are present with us today. From the 1st Senatorial District, we have Senator Ronnie Calvo to my right and Senator Donald Magnolia, who's joining us virtually. From the 2nd Senatorial District, we have Senator Francisco Cruz, and we have Senator Carl King Neighbor also joining us virtually. And present from the 3rd Senatorial District is Senator Manny Castro. With 5 Senate members present, we meet the necessary quorum from the Senate side to conduct today's meeting. I'd also like to recognize our Legislative Bureau support staff from the Senate who are assisting the committee this morning. We have our legal counsel, Antoinette Villagomez, Legislative Assistant Jolene Duenas Tagabuel, Sergeant at Arms Benjamin Terlahi, and our IT, Jonathan Diaz. And now I turn the floor over to Chairman Angelo to introduce his committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Uh, we have floor leader Marissa Flores. We have Representative Ralph Yumo, Representative BJ Atal, Representative Diego Camacho, Representative Roman Beneventi, Representative Vicente or Vince Cobri Aldan, and Representative Joel Camacho. We have our councils, Joe Tyrone, our LB staffs, Mr. Nick Rebalaman, Ms. Claire, our IT, John. Thank you.
Sorry, please get a motion to adopt today's agenda.
Madam Chair, point of clarification. This is a continuation.
Comments if there are any.
Thank you.
Recognize
So,
review.
just for clarification, shouldn't we adjourn the last?
Quick recess. Thank you. Council. Okay. So we rise back from recess. Council Joe Tyrone will provide clarification to the question before us.
Thank you, Senator. As a technical point, Senator Yumo raises a good question, and I think we're just going to resolve it by saying as a practical matter, because this particular meeting is noticed and styled as a continuation, we will technically adjourn the last meeting, but as a practical matter, we're continuing in substance with the same agenda. But in light of the new agenda that was sent out and conforming with the Open Government Act, we're going to consider the last meeting adjourned and then just start fresh today. It's kind of um, just a very highly technical point, but still valid. But for all intents and purposes, we're just going to start over. But the new agenda reflects a continuation, so it really doesn't matter. So I believe the chairwoman and the chairman have agreed that we're just going to consider the last meeting adjourned and start fresh today. Thank you.
All right, members, thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Good question. Can I please get a motion to adopt today's agenda? Okay. All those in favor say, okay. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. The agenda for today's meeting is hereby adopted. Thank you, members. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is public comment. The floor is now open for public comments. If anyone in the gallery wishes to provide comments relevant to today's agenda, please join us in the chamber. Okay. So for those providing comments, please state your name for the record and the entity you represent. Please keep your comments under 5 minutes and relevant to the items on the agenda. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Yoon Kyu Chung. I'm the Vice President of the Mariana Corporation, Mariana Island Corporation, and I'm here to express our appreciation to Chairman Colina and Chairman Angelo, and also all committee member. We are looking forward to working together with all committee member, and we're looking forward your full of the support on Mariana project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ted. Anyone else?
Red. Good morning, Hafide Tiro Kamorale, distinguished joint committees, and honorable members of our legislature. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy that we're having discussions about this topic because our community has been waiting for any kind of movement to happen with this property. My name is Sheila Jack Babauta. I'm a resident of Precinct 4. I live 2 minutes from the former Marianas Resort Hotel. And I'm here as a concerned citizen and a daughter of the Marianas, a daughter of Saipan. This is the largest land lease in CNMI history. And it's a huge topic that we really need to pay attention to as a community and take our time with as leaders. This 40-year lease with a potential of an extension of 15 years for over 5 hectares of public land is a big deal for us because we don't have a lot of land here in the Mariana Islands. And after watching and reviewing your last joint committee meeting that was held on March 25th for almost 3 hours, it was very clear that more time is needed on this topic. More discussion is needed in the community, especially the communities in Precinct 4 who will feel the impact of this development, quote unquote development, right? And so from that last meeting, there were questions on the process of approving the lease. There were questions on the RFP issues that ultimately led to uh, the courts getting involved. There were questions on negotiations, whether or not we can still negotiate, what part of the lease we can negotiate. It was very clear that the legislature and the leaders were not involved with the negotiation process, right? And so we're taking this time to catch up with what has happened since 2020, what's in the lease, what happened with the court order. There's so much information to catch up on. And there's so much opportunity to talk about the needs of our community and all the other players, like you all mentioned in the last meeting, that needed to be at that table, like CUC, like DPW, like the community members, like NSA, the Nativu Sports Association. And the process didn't unfold that way. And so here we are today um, discussing this lease. There, of course, comes questions about this type of development and it being the largest public land lease in Sinai history. In all my travels working with Indigenous groups, there's a land back movement where Indigenous communities want their land back from developers, back from investors, because Indigenous lands are best stewarded in Indigenous hands. We know how to care for the land, we know how to heal the land, and we know how best to steward the land. Here in our community, I know that there's a deep mistrust for leadership, but I see the potential in our people. We have doctors and lawyers, we have brilliant, excellent leaders who can be a part of this conversation and help lead the conversation, because questions like, is this the type of development that we really need? Are our flights full? Telling you no, I was on one last week, right? We're talking about tourism being our number one industry. It wasn't a full flight. It never is when I come home. Are our hotel rooms full? This is a different time than 5 years ago. And so I'm glad those were questions that were also raised in the last meeting, because for us to depend on tourism as our bread and butter just has not been working. Has not been working. So is this the type of development that we need at this time? Do we need more hotel rooms? Do we need another golf course? I lived very close to the golf course. It's a beautiful, beautiful property with so much potential. And is there a reason why this entire property needs to go to one investor? You all talked about putting our eggs in one basket. And, when I was in office, this was already a vacant property. I've brought potential investors on the property and they asked too, why are you going to lease the whole thing to one person? Is there any way we can lease a portion here and then, get other people involved? What's the reason behind that? And we all know the reason behind that, because 2020 was a very volatile time in our government. We had a different administration, we had corruption allegations, we had IPI being built. And so we just don't want another IPI. We don't want another La Fiesta. We don't want another Plumeria resort. And those are abandoned properties that I pass by every day. And so I just want to thank the DPL team. These are people of our community. These are Indigenous peoples of our land. And I appreciate all the time and attention that you spent on this lease. I am here to be a part of the conversation. I would really appreciate more involvement with the community, especially that in Precinct 4, because we have a quarry up there that we listen to every day for 7 days. And the development that's happening is at the expense of our land. We are literally eating away at our land to build more buildings. And we need to make sure that it's the right decision, especially if it's at the expense of our land. So questions around the true environmental cost of a golf resort is on the table too. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, they fight off golf resorts because of the impact to the ocean. All the chemicals that are used to maintain the property will have a runoff effect into the ocean. And so, is that conversation also being had? What is the true cost of the environmental impact? What is the true cost to the people, so that we can make sure these decisions are made with very intentional foresight, with a vision for our people? 40 years is a long time. I'm going to be 76. A baby born today will be 40 years old. And so that's a long lease. That's a lot of property. And I just want to reassure this joint committee that I'm here to also lend any services and help organize any community meetings if you need, so that we can really make this decision together, because we need our community to be involved. We are tired of designing our home for the visitor, designing our home for the tourist. And I understand the concerns and the frustrations around the homestead program. I truly do. And I believe there are other ways that we can get our needs funded. It just takes a matter of bold leadership and support from everybody in the community. So thank you for having this joint committee meeting. I look forward to the discussion, and I'm here should you have any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Chair.
Jesus Masi, Ms. Babauta.
Good morning. Patrick Leon Guerrero, also a homeowner of Asmatuas. So I don't think the legislature needs to look far at our revenue to see what kind of economic conditions our island has kind of developed into. It's been running since the COVID. COVID has been kind of over. You see Guam is recovering, but CNMI is not. We don't have a lot of developers knocking on our doors. There's nobody coming over. As the former Congresswoman just said, the flights are pretty empty. So we have somebody right now who's willing to take the risk, the investment. Public Lands knows already right now what the maintenance cost is just to keep the Mariners Resort in perhaps a semi-function operation. So we are expending funds right now every month just to maintain a system when there's a developer who's been trying to come in, who wants to make the investment in our economy for tourism. We used to be a pretty strong tourist destination, and I'm hopeful that we will return to a strong tourist destination. And I think that one of the first steps is going to be to allow the development of the Mariners Resort, because right now my understanding, MRI is probably the single largest investor in the CNMI, having operations in multiple locations. And so just that they want to even impact and affect another area that has been abandoned is a testament to their commitment to the island. And I think, like I said, all you got to do is look at the CNMI coffers to realize what a hurt situation we are in. And I don't think we're going to get a lot of help from the U.S. because, as you can see by the recent news, the U.S. is cutting everywhere, every division, every government agency. I'm sure they don't have the CNMI high on the totem pole. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Leon Guerrero. Anyone else in the gallery? Okay, I think that's all we have for today's public comment. The public comment portion of the agenda is now closed. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is old business. There's none. Under new business, we have DPL and their team. Acting Secretary Villagomez, please join us in the chamber along with your team if they're here with you. Mrs. Mossy, so may I request that you introduce yourself and your team again, just for those who are viewing online and would like to know who's here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Richard Villagomez, currently acting secretary for DPO, and if you don't mind, they'll just introduce themselves. Thank you.
I'm Bonnie Royal for the Real Estate Division.
Mrs. Pat Rasa, Director of Planning Division.
Mrs. Mossy, so at this time, would you like to provide any opening statements or just continue on where we left off last time?
I'd like to make some statements based on the last hearing, which, from what I understand, is now considered a separate hearing from today. Thank you, Madam Chair and Chairman, honorable members of this committee. It was a lot of discussion in the previous hearing. We took notes, and if I can be given the opportunity to address some of those concerns up front. One of the concerns that was brought up was the court case with the RFP currently being in court. And I think the questions revolved around, what happens if the lease is approved by the joint committee or the legislature. Obviously, if it's approved, then there's no reason for the case to remain in court. The other question, what happens if the legislature rejects it? I think, I want to just clarify, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just speaking in generalities here. If the legislature rejects it, of course, the court would have to, it's currently stayed, so they have to lift the stay, and make a decision on, whether they're going to rule either against or for DPL. We can't predict that. If it's against DPL, then obviously, ELAN would have to make a decision on what next steps they would have to take. There was also a question about whether, because there's a active court case, whether we should be discussing things in a public forum such as this hearing today. That one, I don't have an answer, and probably would recommend that you have competent legal counsels here to guide you on that. There was another very important issue that was brought up about the baseball field, I guess alternate location located in Tanapak. So for reps to identify another location, if that's what you guys want to do also, where DPO can do that. There was also a question about the 25% assignment fee that was brought up. There was a question about, or an issue raised about one company being a monopoly, one company controlling 3 or more hotels on Saipan. And the scenario that was discussed was, whether it's on private or public land. I think the scenario that was brought up was, if that firm, one firm that holds several hotels, was in finance or just decided it, wanted to leave the CNMI, that it would leave a huge void in terms of jobs, employment, rent revenues, and of course tax dollars to the CNMI. But we've had experience with companies actually leaving, leases changing hands. So generally, businesses, they have exit strategies, so they don't just up and leave and abandon their investments. Take Hyatt, for example, in the old lease, the previous lease before MB Capital, it actually changed owners 3 times. Yeah. So and then World Resort, that changed owners several times. Suwasu, as I'm sure you're all aware, and probably we'll be discussing that in another hearing. It was previously owned by another company prior to 2011. So I hope that kind of addresses, how the concern of the new lessee or the assignee, and make sure that they're able to to carry on or fulfill the obligations of the lease. I think there was also a concern about Elan's commitment to deliver on the obligations, and I think they're still committed, very committed. I spoke with Ted earlier. And regarding the reallocating of funds, that was a big issue that was brought up in the last hearing. As far as public benefits are concerned, I don't think there's an issue with moving funds around within the total amount that's being proposed. But we will need eventually an accurate description of what that public benefit will look like, so we can discuss it with Elan and of course insert the appropriate language in the lease if it's approved. And Madam Chair, I think I covered most of the concerns that were brought up in the previous hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Secretary. I believe I requested for a copy of their financials last public hearing. If we can get a copy of their audited financials, their most updated financials, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah. So we did forward that to Elan. Their financials are because it's still kind of early in the beginning of the year. They're looking at around end of May to have updated financials available, and we'll provide it then.
Do they have their audited financials for 24? Or is that the one that's coming up in May?
Yes, I believe that's the one that's coming up
Okay,
in
what
May.
about for 23?
Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman, yeah, so we'll get back to you on that. But
Okay.
as far as the 2024, those are,
Okay.
they're looking at end of May.
No
Yeah,
problem.
Thanks.
I think we would appreciate if we can get a copy of the audited financials for 23 and preliminary unaudited financials for 24. And the reason why I'm requesting for that is because, this lease was negotiated back in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, and it's now 2025. So we just kind of want to do a comparative analysis as to where they are financially, and honestly, just give us the comfort and confidence to know that they are still able to take on the obligations that they have, promised on the lease agreement. So if we could get those, that would be great. It would greatly help us make informed decisions in the future. And so if there's nothing else on your end, you're good?
Yes, Madam Chair and Chairman, we're good for now. Opening
Okay.
statement is done, and thank you again for the opportunity. DPO is here again in support of the approval of the lease to Marianas Elan Corporation of the former Can Pacific properties.
Okay. Sujus Masi, Mr. Villagomez, I recognize, Chair, is it? Oh. I recognize Rep. Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, or good morning, Acting Secretary. I was thinking it's the afternoon already. But thank you for being here today, and Mr. Zhang, thank you for being here as well. With regard to the baseball field that you had made mention, I was referring to the actual current baseball field that's in Marpi. Because that's actually a professional field grade right now. And right now, if we work with the investor to reinvest that 400,000 into that current field. I know there's if I'm not mistaken, it's lot 003A15, which is the pool, the baseball field, and an open field. And I know that the open field can be utilized for a little league field. So I was wondering if both fields, that whatever's being proposed, the 400,000 can be redirected to those. Because it sounds to me like you're looking at another location aside from Tanapak, which NSA and DP already have a TOA currently in effect. So it sounds like that that parcel of land is being committed for something. I'm not sure what it is. We would have to. I don't know if you would have to touch bases back with Elan, but that's where I'm asking if that public benefit monies could go to, those funds could go redirect them to the baseball field and then that open field. And then I know there's already that $1.050 million for the swimming pool, so I'm good with that. And then I also wanted to reiterate that I do agree with former Congresswoman Sheila Babauta that we do need to look into this very carefully. This is a huge public land that lies in Precinct 4. And then I did reiterate from the last meeting we had that a great deal of the environmental impacts the people of Precinct 4 will have to deal with that. The construction, the upkeep of the golf course, which she may mention about the pesticides that may leach into our oceans. So those are things that I feel like the committee should, be updated on. And then also, I'm gonna be requesting from our respective chairs that we have a public hearing that's gonna be held up north, so the people of the north can have an opportunity. I know we had one here in the legislature, and no one showed up, unfortunately. But we'd like to have one, maybe at GTC Elementary. I will be requesting for that from our chairs, that we have one up north, so the people of my constituents and former Congresswoman. I know I'll be working with her to have some of our community members be a part of this, so that they can open their voices, or voice their opinions also, because this is gonna impact a lot of us up there, and I would not be doing any justice to Precinct 4 if I had not made that request. Um, as far as that goes, yeah, so we can negotiate today, but I feel like we can have this open dialogue today, but I really feel like we're gonna get a clear picture when we have the say so, or the opinions of our community members up north, and what they feel about this development. So I'm gonna reserve everything I have to say for today's meeting until we have that public hearing up north. So with that, Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, I yield. Thank you.
Mrs. Masi, Rep. Camacho, your request is duly noted, and I believe in last meeting there were no objections to your request. So we do plan to hold at least a couple of public hearings in Tanapak and in Sunroki to give the constituents of your precinct an opportunity to share their issues or concerns that they may have. So, Chair, okay, so I'm gonna actually, Mr. Villagomez,
Okay,
did you have-
yes, Madam Chair and Chairman, Congressman Camacho. DPO would be happy to participate in any public hearing. Of course, the voice of the community is important to us as well. I mean, we're part of the community. Some of our employees at DPO live up north also, so we'd be happy to participate in that. Just let us know when. The other thing, I know, environmental, of course, that's a big issue with any development, whether it's big or small. But all developers are required to comply with regulatory agencies such as Fish and Wildlife, BCQ, DCRM. So there's no exception for Elan in this case. They'd be just as obligated to comply with those environmental protection and land use requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villagomez. So I guess I was gonna follow up on Rep. Sheila's comment, whether or not it is a requirement of DPL to for potential developer to provide an environmental impact analysis to DPL for their project. Is that something that's required in the packet?
Definitely, whatever it is that they have to do has to go through the regulatory agency.
But do they provide the analysis
Yes.
during the, okay.
Yeah.
So that would be included in our packet as well?
Yes.
Okay.
They either they approve or they don't approve, you know.
So,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, yeah, so in order to work with it's actually a prerequisite to have a lease agreement or some kind of agreement in hand to start the process with reviewing at the regulatory agencies. But within the lease agreement itself, it specifies that you must comply with all the regulatory requirements as far as any requirement, environmental or otherwise, construction, all of that stuff.
Okay. And I just asked, right, because of an example that our former Congresswoman provided with regards to development in New Zealand and how the chemicals that are being used to maintain the golf course was seeping into the oceans. I wanted to make sure that, I mean, that's a very great point that she brought up, and we want to be mindful of that. Granted, I believe the golf course up north is not by the water, right? It's right, like kind of up there in the middle. But nevertheless, right, it's always good to know that a study has been done, and if there is an environmental impact, that it's minimal, especially to the surrounding communities. Okay, so moving along, my line of questions. If we look at under Article 5 rental, which is under on page 4 of 45, the additional rent, I just wanted to get some clarifications on this. So the percentage of BGR, are these rates on the rental schedule new rates or rates from prior leases?
So we're talking about Article 5 rental, Part B, additional rent.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So these rates are actually a slight deviation from DPL's regulations. And the reason for that is because it's under, I guess, within the RFP process and trying to, it was part of the negotiation that the court allowed ELAND and DPL to work on. And so in order to preserve the dollar value of rents that ELAND had proposed in the RFP, these rates were adjusted. I believe they were adjusted upwards to accommodate for that. And also the other part of the rent, the base rent, was made to reflect 5% of the fair market value, which is consistent with the regulations. I hope that answered your question.
So to make sure that I understand what you just clarified, the rate schedule that is in the packet is different from what has previously been given before. So there's a difference.
Yes, there
Okay.
is a negotiated difference, yeah, and I believe it benefits the DPL.
Okay.
It's in favor of DPL.
Okay, so what is the monthly projected BGR for? So I'm asking these questions because for those who don't have access to the packet and who are viewing or listening online, I want them to hear the information.
Okay, so Madam Chair, if you look at Exhibit A on page 42 of the proposed lease,
Okay.
that's a schedule of what their projected BGR over the first 15 years of the lease. It's annual, sorry, it's so just divided by 12 and that gets you the monthly.
So based on what was submitted as projections, will these amounts be, are they fairly close to where we are now, realistically?
Probably not. It's obvious that tourism is I think it's declined since COVID, and after COVID, still declining. But these are what was included in Elan's proposal. Part of the RFP requirement is actually to hold the proposers to 80% of what they propose. And so this is what they had. As far as updated forecasts, I don't have that information.
Can we get an updated forecast just to give us a better picture of where they are now?
I'll discuss with Elan and
Okay,
get
great.
back to the committee.
Okay. And again, it just goes back to, ensuring that the financial obligations that Elan is offering, that they could still fulfill those obligations. We just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. And so an updated forecast would be great. Can we go back to page 4 of 45? And I wanted to clarify. So if we look at, again, going back to B, the additional rent, the table, the annual BGR amounts, can you just help me understand as you go down further on the table that the last two rates actually went down? So from 400,000 to 800,000, it went down from 1.34% to 1.28%. And then the last amount from 800,000 to and over, it continued to decrease to 1.25. So can you just help me understand the rationale behind the decrease in the percentage?
Sure, Madam Chairman. And during the negotiation for the rents, the goal was to preserve the total dollar value of what they had proposed. And so what we had to do was to adjust the rates based on on that total dollar value, and these are the rates that we came up with to preserve the total that they had proposed in their RFP package. So that's the rationale. I know it kind of looks odd that it, what do you call that? The last row there has several decimal places. But as far as the rates declining as the BGR goes up, that's actually consistent with how DPL's been applying it with the regulations, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. At this time, I will open the floor to any members who may have any questions. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Recognize Rep. Attal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, DPO, and to your team for joining us, and to the Elan team, thank you for joining us this morning. I know we're discussing the lease agreement right now, and there's potential amendments that may be considered by DPO and Elan, and if we do pursue those amendments to change on, let's say, just the public benefits itself, if those changes were made, would that have to go back to the court for them to agree to it?
I'm not sure, Congressman. I haven't discussed that angle with our team. We can find out. I'll ask questions, yeah.
That's the reason why I brought up that question in our last meeting. Was it seems like a fourth party has to be a part of any changes to the lease agreement. If we were to agree to change between DPO and Elan on the lease agreement itself, if there's concerns that were brought up by the legislature and DPO and Elan are able to negotiate on those changes, that it would still have to go back to the courts, and that's our concern on our end. And the court shouldn't be involved in any of this process.
Okay, yeah, it's Congressman. That's a good question. So the way we've DPO and Elan has been negotiating, the court basically left it up to the two parties to negotiate. There's no reporting back of can we do this or can't we do this. The negotiation is left entirely up to ELAN and DPL. So if there were some changes, that would be a discussion between ELAN and DPL. If there's, what do you call that? Amendments that the joint committee insists on, of course, that would also be a discussion with ELAN and DPO, not with the courts.
Yeah, but the reason why this document's here is because the courts agreed to your negotiations, correct?
The courts agreed to allow the two parties to negotiate.
To negotiate.
Yeah, so they're not inserting, the court is not inserting themselves into the negotiation process. They basically said, you two go figure it out, and whatever happens, then you come back. But they're not part of the discussion or negotiations.
I guess that's a key. You just mentioned that the court says that whatever happens, come back to us. Why does the court even have to be involved at the end when the approval of this lease or the disapproval of this lease lies on the legislature?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's an active case. I'm not familiar with how court cases go. I can just report what I understand the process to be. And I guess just because it's an active case that's been stayed, whatever decision is made on the lease, if it's approved, obviously there's no reason for the case to continue. If it's not approved, then I don't know what happens after that, to be honest with you.
And I think that's a concern because honestly, the lease itself is very, very beneficial to the CNMI. It's kudos to DPL and their negotiations because you guys came up with really good numbers that's going to benefit the CNMI's economy. But the concern here is the courts, in a way, are still going to be involved. And let's say that it's denied. What happens then? Can there be a new RFP, or would that lawsuit come back?
Yeah. So as far as the court process stuff, I can't answer that. I don't have the answer. To be
And it's
honest.
really unfair, no, to ask
Right.
you, Acting Secretary, because you always don't have a legal counsel with you guys, but it's almost unfortunate that we're sitting here, we're talking about the lease agreement, and we're potentially providing some sort of negotiating opportunities that DPO can go in with ELAN, but then the court still has, I don't know, I'm like you said, I'm not a lawyer either, but I don't want them to hold this negotiations or this lease agreement hostage. If it's approved and it moves forward, then okay, the court says we're done. But what if it's not approved?
So I think I guess one thing I can say is ELAN wants it so bad they took it to court. As far as what happens after in the event it's rejected, I'm hoping it's approved, but in the event it's rejected, beyond that I don't know. I don't think anyone can know. That would be something that I guess ELAN would discuss with their team and see what next steps to take regarding the case.
Sure, just for just informational purposes for new members of the community that are joining in, we don't want this to end up like a local law that we created, and they filed a lawsuit. It was a stay in the court, and the judge allowed a negotiation on a law. So we don't want this to be lingering in the courts, when that's potentially holding back DPO and even ELAN in their abilities to move forward with this lease agreement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Apto. Anyone else? Rep. Benavente? Okay, I recognize Rep. Benavente.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome members of DPO and ELAN, also members of the ELAN. I just like to echo Representative. It's just a simple. I just like to echo Representative Camacho's say on having public hearing in the north. I would also like to say, since this is a general issue for Saipan, it's a huge amount of land, huge amount of property, and it concerns a lot of people. So I'd like to ask your chairman that we'll ask them to DPO that we'll do a public hearing also on the south, mainly on the central area where a lot of people can come over and voice their opinion with regards to this. And that's basically, that's all I want to mention. Thank you.
Sidusmasi Rep Benavente. Anyone from the Senate? Anyone else? Oh, I recognize Rep Yumo and then Rep Flores.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, because I wasn't here in the last meeting, with regards to the deposits of the, I guess this construction security deposits, what happens to the deposits or potential deposit if at the end of the 5th year Elan decides not to continue? Can we get a DPL's position moving forward should that happen?
So, thank you, Congressman. Just give me a second, okay?
Has there actually, I mean, we don't have to answer that now, but has there been any discussion with regards to, obviously they've committed to renovating a lot of this, I guess, different phases. So at the end of, I'm not sure how the phases are translated into years, but should, for example, hypothetically, at the end of the phase 1 or 5th phase, what happens to the remaining construction, I guess, the deposits or the costs? You know, there's fees involved in each phase. That I'm assuming those are deposits.
Yes, thank you, Rep. Rep Yumo. So as far as security deposits, those are addressed in Article 7. And if you read down to, I think, the 3rd paragraph, that if there's any default, the DPL will be able to keep all or part of the security deposit to cover like unpaid rents, administrative costs, and other remediation expenses.
Okay. And I guess last, my concern is with the other leases that we approved. The hotels were able to sell the rights without going to the legislature again, or I think they did with regards to was it Mariana's Plaza or it did it. Yeah. So does the legislature again? I guess any negotiation would come back to us because obviously we're concerned about non-completion, and it's hard to predict beyond 10 years, and especially there's a lot of phases here. So that's my concern is what happens if that doesn't fall through.
Yeah. So I think you have a 2-part question. One is regarding like if the lessee assigns the lease rights to another or sells the lease, basically is what they're doing. And that do we need to come back to it? It depends. For example, the former Hyatt, the property was less than 5 hectares, so there was no requirement to get the approval of the legislature. Now, if it comes to if it involves a property that's 5 hectares or above, I think that would require legislative approval for the assignment of that lease.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep Yumo. I now recognize Rep Flores.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Villagomez. So I'm going to go back towards the developers, and I'm looking at the investment structure from Elan. And so they have two areas in which they conduct business, in Korea and in Saipan. And in Korea, they have Elan World and Elan Theme Park, I assume. I don't know what this is over here. But there's two separate corporations in their investment trust. So Saipan has Mariana Elan Corporation with the two corporations coming down 100% shared to Mariana Elan Corp. Am I reading that correctly? And I'm going to get to that. I have a question regarding that.
Yes, Rep. Flores. There's several tiers of ownership. The ultimate parent company is Elan Group in Korea.
Okay. And they have various businesses stemming from retail to development, construction, manufacturing, restaurants, chain of restaurants. And it is a private company, which is also listed in their, are they still, so they're not a public stock, is that correct?
They're not a publicly traded company. Yes, that's
so
correct.
All right. So we talk about the developers and we talk about now, I'm concerned, not concerned, but my question is the infrastructure, investment structure, because they have so many businesses. And I guess for me, they do have the money to back it up, period, at the end of the day. Just looking at their assets and the type of businesses they're in. So we have, so let me backtrack. So we have Elan World and we have Elan Park. Okay. And Elan also controls PIC, Core Ocean Point, and Kensington. Correct? Okay. So when you look at PIC, is PIC under Elan Park? Because they're like a theme park kind of structure. They have a different kind of marketing, strategy. And then you have Core Ocean Point, which is more of a sports kind of market, because they also have apparel in there. And I'm just wondering, is part of the Suwasu also part of the apparel distribution that they have in Korea? Do they bring in all the other stuff also from Korea there? And the reason why I'm getting to that is because now when I look at Mariana's Resort, is Mariana's Resort going to encompass both a theme park and the sports, or do they have a totally different marketing perspective when it comes to Mariana's Resort? Because that has the golf course, just like Suwasu. Are they going to have a mall in there? Are they, what is, I mean, I see what they're going to do with this, but I'm more curious because their investment structure has all of their stuff in Korea. And from the developer's side, is Elan interested in maybe bringing some of their asset and file their corporation here outside of Mariana Elan Corporation? I mean, we have a beautiful tax system here.
Yes, Rep, that's a good question. Actually, all lessees that DPO deals with, we require them to incorporate locally. Mariana's Elan Corporation, the company that proposes and is backed by all of the other companies that you just mentioned, is a Sinamay corporation. Yes.
Mariana Elan.
Mariana's Elan Corporation is a Sinamay corporation.
Right.
Yes.
I'm looking at all their other investments. Maybe they can put in another like 10 down this way.
I guess if the lease is approved, then maybe they'll have opportunity to do that. I do know that they intend on leveraging their expertise on all the other areas as far as hospitality and retail. So hopefully those will translate and benefit the cinema. Yes.
And so that's why I'm asking, because they have different structures of their corporations. They have very specific structures for well, not structure, but marketing. You have Elan World, you have Elan Park, and now you have Mariana Corporation, right? Which really encompasses everything. because apparently, I don't know, will they be interested in maybe having a cruise ship come here at some point? Is that part of the marketing strategy for the long term? And I think this is important because when you're talking about the land, right? We know already, just looking at their corporate structure and all their assets listed here, they can back this project up. That's 100%. There's no denying that they can back this up. It will not be another IPI. That's almost a guarantee. But also, when you're looking at the big picture of what we're missing, and going back to Mr. Guerrero's comment about developers, we're never going to see developers. He's correct. But when you look at Elan's structure, and I'm looking at it here, and majority of the structure still stays in Korea, I'm looking at, hey, let's be a partner, right? And bring some of this down here. Since now what we're talking about is this huge, massive property, which is the only public land left in the Commonwealth, under public land, right? Everything else is private. And if we're going to do this, then we're holding hostage, or we're going into business with a huge corporation up here. My interest now is maybe talking to Elan and saying, well, why don't you bring maybe Elan World down this way? See what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a nice foresight, and maybe the first step towards that would be having that lease in place.
Oh, I don't like having that lease in place first. Maybe we can come to a discussion, maybe putting that there together in this lease, right? Because when you look at this, Mr. Villagomez, there is a lot of investment. They are worth at least what's here. I mean, they've been in business for 40 years, 45 years. They founded in 1980. And then, they're worth about, I want to say maybe even in the trillion. But I might be wrong. But that's a lot of money. And when you're talking about investment, the smaller micro vision is the swimming pool, is the baseball court, a baseball field, but I'm looking at it from the outside macro, and I'm very much interested in this investment structure. And I'm hoping that maybe we can sit down with Elan. He doesn't look too happy back there when I'm talking about this, sir. I'm sorry. I'm just, trying to understand, but that's the long term, because they'll be in business another 40 years. That's almost a guarantee. But we want to make sure that when we're talking about investment, we're also talking about the way they're structured. And I see that they have two, Korea and Saipan. But majority of it still sits in Korea. And we have a beautiful tax structure here that I would love for them to consider. Maybe putting Elan World or Elan Theme Park or Elan Park down here in the bottom. And maybe a subsidiary, attach that subsidiary here. And then down to Mariana Corporation, Elan Corp. Thank you. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Rep. Flores. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure I asked this question last time, but I'm not sure if I got an answer. But in the packet, a proposed packet that was submitted to DPL by Elan, the public benefit stated on that packet was 6.8 million, and the actual amount now that we see on the proposed lease is 4 million. So help me recall if an answer was provided last time.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm sorry. Sorry, can you repeat the reference to the public benefits going down? I know the public benefits are shown in Exhibit C of the proposed lease, and it shows various amounts here.
Sure. So in our packet, there's a coverage sheet that says Mariana Elan Corporation Notice of Acceptance, right? And then, oh, never mind. I'm sorry, that was Mariana's Elan Corporation Proposal. And in the, it looks like it's a booklet because it has those, I don't know what you call those things, the prongs that hold the booklet. But in that proposal, there was like a summary of what the Wonderland Marianas is, right? And at the very bottom says public benefits 6.8 million. So I just wanted to understand what changed from that proposal to the actual amount that's being proposed in the lease.
That's, just give me a second, we're gonna review that. Thank you, Madam Chair, sorry for that. So in the proposal that you're looking at, public benefits totaled 6.8 million?
Yes.
Yeah. So I believe if you add up the amounts in Exhibit C, it matches the 6.8 million.
Um, oh, so it's not 4? Okay. Okay, never mind. I found the breakdown. Thank you. So since we're under the topic of public benefits, I have some clarifying questions that I'd like to ask. So under the Lifelong Education Center for $2.85 million, it states that the lessee will build a facility specifically dedicated as an education center to facilitate the learning of the indigenous traditions and cultures. So where will this facility be built? Which part of the property? And how big is it?
Okay, so, yeah, Madam Chair, I think you're referring to what they call the Mariana Cultural Center. That would be built within the leased area.
So where the hotel is, I'm assuming?
I think in the area where the old baseball field and the pool are at, somewhere in that area. I think there's some additional vacant land there that they're gonna, so that'll be part of their facilities in that part of the leased
So
area.
is that different from the investment under $220 million? Because the Lifelong Education Center of 2.8 is listed under public benefits. But if you look at the breakdown for $220 million, there's a development of Micronesia Cultural Center. Are those two separate things, or?
I'm sorry, I need to clarify, the cultural center would be, sorry, can you come? Okay, just to clarify, the cultural center is gonna actually be in the area where the carts, the race carts,
Okay.
are at the track.
But
Yeah.
that's separate from the public benefit, right? That's actually under the 220 million investment.
I think that is the cultural center that they're proposing to develop.
Right, there's a cultural center and then there's a education center.
So yeah, that's within the 2.8 because it's talking about the lifelong education center. And that would be within the Marianas Cultural Center development phase that they're talking about. So that's the area where the race carts are at now, the track.
Okay, so the lifelong education center is within the cultural center.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what they're proposing, yeah.
Okay, and so with that, are there going to be any potential modifications to what's being proposed since this was proposed back in 2022? And again, we keep going back to the increase in cost and all that. So knowing that, are there any anticipated modifications to what's being proposed? And if so, what are those changes?
There's, again, I just have to refer back to this was evaluated based on, within the context of an RFP. As far as the proposal, we have not heard of any changes to that. But if there is, then what DPO would do would have to discuss that with Elan, but preserve the, I guess, the dollar value
Sure.
of what they're proposing.
So can DPL just get some clarification from Elan to ensure that, what is being proposed is still on the table, and if there are any modifications, then we could at least know what those are so that we know what we're approving on. And, so just get an update of where things are from 2022 to now, just so that we understand where things are.
Okay, we'll do, Chair.
Thank you. And then I'm assuming this will be open to the public to include our indigenous people, correct?
I think that's the purpose of it.
Okay.
Yes, it is that they
And
made
so
that pretty
I
clear.
asked that question because as always, we want to know if there will be some kind of maybe discount or, some to our people when they access those facilities.
Yes, Madam Chair, I think that there are local discounts that's
It will be applied, okay.
10%, yeah, that's worked into the lease agreement itself.
So just help me better understand what this facility is going to be. So it's a learning facility to preserve or promote our indigenous cultures, or like what is the primary vision for this facility? And are you, if it is, are they working with Indigenous Affairs Office and Caribbean Affairs Office to ensure that, they're all on the same page?
Yeah, it's Madam Chair and Chair. That's a good point. I think when they, if the legislature approves the lease, that would be one of the first steps. It's stated in the lease that the goal or purpose of this cultural center is to promote and also for cultural entertainment type of activities to promote our cultures here.
Okay. All right. So moving along in the public benefit, so we have development of a premium shopping mall. Where would this development take place?
So those, the premium shopping area would be where the current, those old baseball fields are at, and the swimming pool. The swimming pool area is actually going to be indoor. It's going to become an indoor swimming pool.
So you're going to convert the baseball field to
That's
develop
where
it?
they proposed the development, and I think that's why there was a discussion on identifying an alternate site for
Okay.
the baseball fields.
That makes sense
Yes.
now. Because if, going back to Rep. Camacho's request that the entire 400,000 be used to repair and, develop the existing baseball field, right? That would kind of cause problems for the development of the mall if that's the identified area for the development.
Yes, that is the identified area. Also, it's probably be more accessible to the baseball players, the community, if it was located off-site.
So it sounds like the baseball field will be, we'll be looking for another location for the baseball field if the shopping mall will be there.
So Rep. Angelo Camacho brought up about, I think in the previous hearing about that area possibly not being suitable. And that's why when, in my opening statement, I said that DPO would be willing to identify, depending on what the committee or the precinct 4 representative prefers.
Okay. And how big of a shopping mall is this? Like, what are we looking at? How many numbers of stores? Are they like outlet types of stores? Are they actual premium stores?
Just give me a second to clarify that. Yes, Madam Chair. Your question was what type of facilities it's going to be. So they're going to have, it's going to be like a mall, or it is a mall, it will be a mall, and they'll have several shops in there, like your typical mall, different vendors, or I'm sorry, stores in there. Ted just mentioned, they might even bring some of their Elan brand clothing to sell in the mall itself. So it's your typical mall setup where you have various stores.
So like an actual mall,
like an actual mall.
like
Okay.
Micronesian Mall or GPO Mall, or like give us a comparison. What are we looking at?
So similar to GPO, yeah.
Okay, so it's a much smaller scale mall.
Right.
Okay. And will the residents be given a discounted rate to open up their businesses in those spaces?
Madam Chair, so we actually haven't had any discussion on that. Whatever is in the lease agreement as far as the 10% discount, those all stand.
Right.
But-
I'm just trying to find more benefits.
Right, yeah, of course, understood.
For our people, to
Yeah.
encourage our people to also open up their businesses, right? Because they will be providing an experience to our visitors. So if they were selling local foods or local merchandise or stuff like that, right? It's more authentic to the experience than what, I mean, people that, if you're bringing stuff from Korea and your majority of your customers are Koreans, why would they want to buy Korean stuff here when they come here to visit and experience our local culture and, activities? So I'm just trying to think in advance to consider, giving some type of discount to our local residents to avail of a space so they can also partake in, generating revenues. Yes.
Yes, and I think that's also one of the I guess, purpose that the cultural center serves.
So the
Right.
multicultural will also serve as a facility to sell local merchandise? Do you have any? Okay.
Yeah, yes, Chair, that's correct. They'll be able to have, traditional souvenirs and foods and sell from there.
Okay. Okay, just moving on to the swimming pool park, just to clarify, is Ealing gonna create a whole new park, water park, or just using the existing swimming pool there and adding some water slides?
Their proposal, if you look at the business overview in their proposal, they're gonna have expand on swimming pools and also have like a water park feature.
Where the
Um,
hotel is right
f-
now? Okay,
Actually, even where the race carts are at,
okay.
they'll have like a swimming pool and one water park type. um, Is this part of your? This one?
This is a new hotel.
Okay.
This is where the current Villa Inn Hotel. This is
Yeah, ask him. All right, I'm just asking because I'm trying to help paint a picture for the viewers online to, see what the vision is for Elan for these proposed lease. So that's what I'm trying to.
Absolutely understood. That's very important. Yeah, so their proposal involves actually building a whole new hotel, and then that will have its own swimming pool and stuff. They're also gonna, I guess, fix up the existing structures that are there now, including the cottages, those real nice cottages there. The North Wing Hotel, that's the one on the north side of the existing property, so they're gonna fix all of that up. And then north of that, where the carts, the golf carts are, they're gonna have a water feature there. It's more like a lake thing. But there are gonna be swimming pools built at the new hotel proposal. There's also gonna be some additional, like, I'm not sure if these are cottages or larger than cottages on the cliff side, overlooking from the golf course towards the ocean. And of course, the golf course itself would be rehabilitated and put back into operations.
Thank you for those clarifications. And one last question before I turn it over to Chair Camacho. So to date, approximately how much in total has Elan invested in the CNMI? We just want to put it in perspective, right? So that our people understand the investment that Elan has contributed into the CNMI. So if you have that answer, that would be great. If not, we could always get it at another time.
Yes, Madam Chair, so yeah, that involves several properties, several
So
holdings.
in totality?
So
Yes.
I don't have the information
Okay.
with me right now. I'd have to consult with Mr. Ted here and
Okay.
get back to the committee.
Great, thank you. I just want to help the people understand, what contributions and investment has Elan made to the CNMI. And so that's definitely a big deciding factor, I would think, for some of the members, right? Maybe not all, but for some, to take into consideration everything that they have done for the CNMI and moving forward, if that's the direction that, the majority wants to take. So that's all I have at this point. I now turn the floor over to Chair Camacho.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Well, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I guess part of the package submittal, it's kind of hard to see a lot of the pages because it's just not printed well. But now that I know that the Premier Mall would be situated at the current baseball field and swimming pool, can I ask how much is the total for the Premier Mall? What's the total construction cost?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just give me a second, please.
Sure.
Okay, Chair. So the premium shopping mall itself is 20, projection is 25 million
25 million.
in construction costs, or total investment amount, I'm sorry.
Okay. And during the negotiation stage, just out of curiosity, was it ever brought up to maybe perhaps see if we can renovate La Fiesta or maybe carry on the current DFS instead of, building a new structure for a mall? I mean, it's up north, so wouldn't it make more sense to kind of develop an existing structure that we currently have as far as like, beautifications and avoid abandonment or, I just a thought.
Yes, it would make sense, but I think those La Fiesta, former La Fiesta Mall is actually private lands. Same with the DFS. And then the RFP was, for the properties specifically identified in the RFP itself. But I see your point.
Understood, okay. Well, all right, thank you. Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you, Chair. I now recognize Senator Manny.
Thank you, Acting Secretary, and your time, and our reps from ELAN also. Looking at this whole process, I think for the benefit of the investor, the NMDs, the community, we should really try and go back to the intent of the Constitution on how this is supposed to work out. I think it'll be a lot more smoother instead of going back and forth between the legislature and DPL. So what do I mean by that? I mean by focusing on just the land lease. And the fact that we have a lot of the community benefits embedded in the contract, and that's good. But if we follow the initial intent of the laws and the Constitution, what's supposed to happen is the investor meets with DPL, they negotiate the land lease terms, and then the money gets, all the benefits, the proceeds of the lease agreement goes to MPOT. Then MPOT, makes, invests that money, and then the profits from that investment goes back to the legislature for appropriations for community benefit projects related to the NMDs. I think if we just follow the law and the process of the initial design, it's going to prioritize simplicity and avoiding unnecessary complexity in this process. And that's what I'm seeing. Like I just want to thank ELAN for their patience, because this takes a long time, and I'm not saying we shouldn't take a long time, but at the same time, it's like some of these discussions really, I think that's what a lot of the members are having issues with, because they weren't really involved, and they represent their constituents. So if we just follow the law and the Constitution, it would make this process a little more smooth, because the members here would know what's important to their constituents, and if they don't, their constituents will make them know what's important. This is a long time to be dealing with these land leases, and in whether we realize it or not, like I'm not here to insult the intelligence of the investors or what, but time is money, and it this process, like how it takes so long, investors are losing money. We do have to do our due diligence, but if we really look at that concept of how this process was written in law, and we just follow the scope that was the initial design, then it's really going to alleviate a lot of these disconnects. So, and then on a side note, in regards to the mall in the north, I really hope we learn from the mistakes of the past and we consider the local residents in the design of a shopping mall, because that's part of the problem. As a former, you know, La Fiesta was really beautiful growing up. I mean, the owners of the mall even brought in snow from Japan so that the residents can play with snow in Christmas. But the only downside is La Fiesta is so far up north, and at that time you don't have public transportation. But if the mall was in like somewhere central like Garapan, maybe La Fiesta would still be open today. Or if we build a homestead up north, and that way the north becomes also central. Other places like Florida, the hotels that did really well, and even here in Saipan, like the hotels that really do well with kind of branding to include the local residents, happy hour and other things. They usually do well, even in case not just international tourism, but local tourism, domestic tourism. We just have to really consider what can we add, like Senator said, like we need to align our product in terms of the local experience, because it's not just in the hotel, it's even outside. And that's why the design of how this is supposed to pan out is work on the lease with the investor, remit that money to MPLT. MPLT makes its initial investments, then all that profit goes back to the legislature for appropriation into infrastructure and other projects related to for the benefit of the NMDs. But thank you, Chair. I yield my time.
Thank you, Senator Manny. Great points. I think just to add to that, maybe part of the reason why this is such a complex process is because it's not just a 5-year lease or 10-year lease, right? It's a long-term lease, and as Representative Sheila Babauta mentioned, by that time, I mean, my daughter's 10. By the time this lease expires, she'll be in her 60s. So there's definitely a lot to take into consideration, and planning all of that out and trying to foresee how can we prevent or minimize, we can't prevent, but at least minimize the impact that it would have on our future generations. So I believe that's part of the reason why this is such a complex process, because we want to be mindful and responsible, right, for the decisions that we are making right now. But I know it's almost noon, so I just have a few more line of questions that I'd like to add before we close, if there are no other questions from the members. But if I may, I can just get started. So despite the decrease in revenues due to 2 super typhoons, the pandemic, the low arrival numbers, and labor shortages, in your latest discussions with Elan, how is Elan's financial suitability to date? I think that is such an important question that's on everyone's mind, especially, considering this long-term lease. We want to make sure that the financial suitability is there. So are you able to answer that question to date?
Yes, Madam Chair, I think we discussed that earlier, and that we agreed that I'd get updated information
Okay.
from Elan,
Okay.
and then get back to the
Okay.
committee members.
And then and I'm just asking these line of questions, okay, so that the members of the community who are viewing online can understand. Does DPO have regulations in place that requires the winning bidder to show proof of cash flow, more specifically, proof from a banking institution showing the company's liquidity, its cash and current receivables?
Madam Chair, yes, we do. They've proved up the cash, showed us bank statements, and all of those were scrutinized by the review committee at DPL.
Right, thank you. And last question, knowing that the CNMI is prone to typhoons and labor shortages, how does ELAN plan to address its construction timelines to ensure deadlines are met timely?
Okay, so two parts to that question, Madam Chair and Chair. As far as typhoon, well, Elan already is here. They're aware of, the potential damage from not just typhoon, but the two super typhoons, right? Sawasu was hit hard, PIC was hit hard, Kensington same, and so they have the experience to I guess, bounce back, get back into operations. And I think even during or after those storms, they were giving out water and helping the community. So they have experience with dealing with the super typhoons and typhoons. As far as the, construction timeline, I think just the fact that they were able to get those three operations back up and running and serving the community speaks to their ability to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villagomez. And I asked that question simply because two things, right? In our last go around with ELAN regarding the Sawaso lease, obviously there were some concerns about their inability to complete some of the projects that they said they would do on the lease, right? And it goes back to their explanation, the reason why they weren't able to complete those projects was because of the typhoons and the pandemic. And sure, we understand because everybody was experiencing that. And the community appreciates all the contributions that they have given after the fact. But that doesn't negate the question, right, of concern whether or not, I mean, what contingency plans do they have in place knowing that they have experienced that? We don't want to hear another excuse or explanation that, well, we couldn't finish it because, the typhoon. So understanding all of that now, right, that we are typhoon prone, I believe a lot of the members would like to know what is the contingency plan, because operations is different from projects. So obviously they had to find ways to bring operations back online as soon as possible because that's lost revenues to them. But that's a completely separate topic from the projects that they promised to complete on the lease agreement. So my concern is more on the projects. What are the contingency plans for the projects to be completed timely should, these natural disasters occur?
Sure, Madam Chair and Chair. There is contingencies, I guess, risk mitigation measures that are built into the lease itself, and that involves the question that Rep. Yumo had earlier about security deposits. So that's one thing. Also, there's insurance requirements such as performance bond, liability insurance, storm hazard insurance. All those are required in the lease.
So were those requirements in place prior to the typhoons, or were those implemented after?
Those are actually standard provisions in DPO's leases,
Okay,
even before the.
Okay, so they
yeah.
have those requirements in place, right? But yet they were still unable to mitigate the completion of those projects or complete the projects. Hence the reason why they asked for, asked for a new lease to incorporate the unfinished projects, right, into the new lease.
So, Madam Chair, I think, are we talking about Coral Ocean Resort?
Yes, we're still talking, and I'm just trying to establish the concern, right? Because if we had concerns about Coral Ocean, right, but we managed to move forward with the lease and approve it, but we also want to make sure that this time around, right, that we have something of substance to give the assurance, right, to our people that when we make this decision, right, that we have things in place to address some of the concerns that we that we couldn't really do much during the hearing for Coral Ocean because we just had to kind of accept that, right, and move forward. But we want to make, in hearing all of those explanations as to the reason why they weren't able to complete, I personally would like to know how Elan would mitigate some of those challenges, right? So like the two most important things is the construction timelines and the labor shortages. That is such a huge challenge right now with our labor, right? Because we don't have control of our immigration. And we need to be mindful of that because that greatly affects the timelines of the projects that are being proposed. So knowing all of that, I would like to hear what the plans are to, give us that comfort and assurance that despite all those challenges, what is that contingency plan?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Chair. I think, there's a lot of, when it comes to storm damage and, natural disasters, nobody can predict that.
Sure.
And you can, have mitigation, I guess, measures in place such as insurance, performance bond. But even at that, there's still no guarantee, right? And as far as the Coral Ocean Resort, just a brief history on that. That requirement that you're talking about for, I think it was the 100-room requirement, yeah. So that was, in the initial lease, it actually wasn't Elan that had that lease. It was a different owner. And then in 2000, I think 11 or 12, right, 12, the original Suwasu owners got an extension for the 15-year remaining, still no 100 rooms at that time. And then, Elan assumed the lease, or they bought the lease from the previous owner around 2012. And obviously everybody knows what happened after 2012. You had two super typhoons with and only 15 years remaining on a lease. So we have what we believe is, mitigation measures in the lease itself. Of course, I don't think anyone can give any guarantees. We hope that things work out, and we hope that those concerns are taken or viewed in that perspective.
Thank you for the backstory of Coral Ocean. And while I do understand the challenges that they faced, right? And this is I'm not trying to be condescending in any way. I'm just saying that at the time when Elan decided to take over the remaining lease of Suwaso, they've also acknowledged to take on the liabilities that come with it, right? And so to say that, that it wasn't really their fault because whoever the original owners were didn't fulfill at the time when they decided to take on that lease, they should have anticipated that there were some requirements that have yet to be, made good on and completed. All I'm saying is that we want to make sure that we try as much as possible to minimize, the negative impact that it has had on our communities. And we're just trying to be proactive, in making sure that I know that the lease, there's no such lease agreement that's foolproof, and I know that there are no 100% guarantees. But if you have plans in place, right, you have contingency plans A, B, and C, right, and you have inventories waiting for you for construction purposes, lined up, nearby, so that the challenges of shipping or whatever delays that may come with it, that's all I'm saying. I want us to, think proactively and put things in place as a form of standby maybe, right? So that if this happened, we go to plan A. If this happens, we go to plan B. That's all. I just want some kind of a plan, right? Yeah.
Understood, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognize Rep. Jungo.
Thank you, Chair. Just in line with one of your questions earlier, with regards to the public benefit contributions, I know we can't change any amount, but should this be considered as some changes? Maybe we shouldn't fund the homestead infrastructure in Asgono, partly because I think CUC at one point said it would cost them around $12 million to develop the infrastructure along that area. So $2.5 million will not do anything other than just a plan. So I would like to see this be restructured, should it be allowed, to address other stuff, possibly some improvements to the precinct 4 area, because this is gonna affect them the most. And, we would like to look at that, funding, infrastructure that's, and that's, I believe 3 years ago when CUC said it was about 8 to $12 million, if I could remember, to lay down the lines and the pipes. So that will never be done. This money will be set aside and nothing will be done in that area because it's just not enough funding for CUC to start that project. That's just comment. And if the modification should be made, that's something that should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Yomo. Any other questions from the members? If not, we would like to take this opportunity to thank DPO and its team for coming in and answering to the best of your knowledge and ability the questions that the members have. We look forward to getting the information and documents from some of the members' requests. The sooner the better, so we can start deliberating. And we do plan to hold those public hearings in the villages up north so that we can get a better sentiment and gauge what the community members are feeling about the development up north. So with that, DPL, undang ko na si Dusmawasi for your time, for your patience, and for your understanding in the line of questions that we've been asking. And we will be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Chairman, members of this committee.
Thank you. Okay, members, if there are no further discussions on today's hearing, can I get a motion to adjourn today's joint committee meeting? Thank you. A motion has been offered and seconded. Can all those in favor say aye? Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Today's joint committee meeting is hereby adjourned at 12:06 p.m. Thank you, members and staff.